Our guest this show is Cheryl Myers, the author of Feels Good to Feel Good. Cheryl, welcome to the show. How are you, my friends?
I'm fantastic, and thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
All right, good. Well, it's always my pleasure. And it's hours later after we wound up getting together. So I want to share you with my people. So first of all, let's talk about this. You have two really, really big books, right? It Feels Good to Feel Good is the second book.
It's the first one. The second one is Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin. The first one is It Feels Good to Feel Good.
And you know what's really great about the first book too? It goes, and then we'll get into the second one, but is that you really break it down. So what is the book about? Well, a little bit of your story and let the audience know, because I know.
Okay, I was an entrepreneur. I had my own solopreneur business. I designed jewelry that I sold to all the big box customers in the United States. I sold Macy's and J.C. Penney and Amazon and Ross Simons. And I was working 24/7. But I wasn't paying any attention to my body, and it was trying to tell me that things were going wrong, and it flitted past my brain so quick I didn't even stop to think about it. I just was always working. And I'd get home and I was eating as fast as I was working all day, and I was eating all the wrong stuff because I wanted to eat fast. And so I should have known when one morning I woke up and my lips and my tongue and my eyes were swollen shut. That was a pretty good indication that something was going wrong. But we figured out that it was my fabric softener. We got rid of it. And then I went back to normal for all of 4 weeks. And I woke up one morning in extreme pain. I couldn't even get out of bed. I hurt so bad. And so and I had a very good staff that could handle things if I wasn't there. So they took over. And when I finally could get up, I went to the doctor, a conventional doctor, and she ran tests, and then she ran more, and then she ran more. And after the fourth time, she called me and said, Cheryl, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. I'm going to give you steroids, but there's nothing wrong with you. And what I want you to do is seek therapy. I said, you know something? I said, you're wrong. I know my body, and something is very wrong with my body, and I'm going to go find it. And so I dug in and I tripped into the functional medical community. And the difference between a functional doctor and a conventional doctor is my functional doctor has a degree from Yale in medicine, but they all got sick and they couldn't help themselves. So they went and got additional training from the Functional Medical Institute. And the difference is a conventional doctor is looking for the one thing that they can give a pill for, and the pill will mask what's wrong. Whereas a functional doctor looks at the entire body and they want to find the root cause. So they were.
Never heard of functional doctor.
I'm a huge believer now, and I absolutely adore my doctor. My old doctor would give me maybe 6 minutes.
Right.
I always walked out with a new medication, and I was always going, I forgot to tell her this and this and this and this. My new doctor spends 45 minutes with me. She researches, I research, we come together. We come to some kind of conclusion as to what I should be doing. And although she can prescribe pills, that is never her first option. She's always going to try to find the holistic approach first. And if that doesn't work, then we go from there. But I listened to 19 different symposiums with maybe 20 different doctors in each, and they kept coming up with the same things. I probably had something called leaky gut. I probably had something called autoimmune disease. What did leaky gut get caused from? It got caused from stress. I knew I had a lot of stress. My friends had started pulling me aside to talk to me about it. And I knew I probably had a lot of toxins in my life because my whole life I was breaking out in random rashes that would come and go, or I would eat a food that would disagree with me. And so that's where I started. And I went into a giant database. This is Snap. I went into a giant database in the sky, and it's called ewg.org. And there are hundreds of thousands of items, either by product name, or if your product's not in there, they do it by ingredient. And the first thing I looked up were my expensive French cosmetics, and they were a 9 on a 10-point scale. So that's where I started, and I systematically went through absolutely everything in my life and traded it out for things that were very low toxin. I started after cosmetics with food. because I didn't understand, why should I eat organic? What the heck was GMO? We'd had it on the ballot in California, and there was so much misinformation that it lost. And so the more I studied and the more I got into it, at first, the angrier I got that my government was allowing me to be poisoned. And then I figured out we all need to join together and be something called armies of one and fight it as ones together, because just a 5% shift in spending habits shifts what's made, because they don't want to lose your business.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So I can explain any of that you might want, but it does make a difference to eat organic. Not only do you not get an unhealthy dose of toxins with every bite,
Right.
but you actually get the minerals that the earth wants to give you in your food that you can utilize in your body. And GMOs are one of two things. They're Bt toxin, which means if the insect bites the plant, it blows up his little stomach, but unfortunately, when it gets to your gut, it's blowing up all your good gut bacteria.
But that makes sense.
And the other kind of GMO is glyphosate, which is Roundup, which now has lost hundreds of lawsuits, and Bayer took over from Monsanto just in time for the big payout to all the people who got cancer. But it's still being sprayed on our food.
Yeah.
So yes, you should buy organic. Now I buy everything organic, but EWG, the same company that I was looking everything up in, they do the Dirty Dozen Clean 15. And if it's on the dirty side, absolutely you have to buy it organic.
Okay.
It could have as many as 80 toxins on it. And if it's on the clean side, it doesn't matter. You can knock yourself out. And things like broccoli are on the clean side. But that's where you start with food. And then I got into the lining and the cans and what goes into our meat. I only eat meat now that is species specific. He eats his species specific diet. So if he's a cow, he's eating grass because that's what he's supposed to eat. He's not eating GMO corn.
Right.
And lambs only want to eat grass. And chickens have to run around free in the field where they eat insects and grass and berries. And meat tastes different when he eats his diet that he's supposed to.
It's completely broken
down. So how do you afford it? You don't need as much as we've been eating. I only eat the size of a deck of cards.
Okay.
And then I fill up my plate with 75% fruits and vegetables, because that's what is giving me all of the great phytonutrients and the luscious things that are going to make me well. And it didn't really, and we tested, when I finally got to a functional doctor, we tested for food sensitivities. I have 18 of them. And by eliminating my food sensitivities, I had instant relief. So at the end of 5 years, I had eliminated hundreds of toxins from all aspects of my life, and I no longer had pain at all. So that's what the book is about. The book is about all the places I found all the toxins.
So let's break this, because that was a big nugget. So with people, a lot of times, because you really are an advocate, you're an advocate for yourself, which is when you go to a doctor, right? You absolutely need to.
Yeah, you need to know, don't let them own your body. You have the power.
Yeah.
And if you own your body, you should be having robust conversations no matter what kind of doctor you have. You should be as knowledgeable as they are. I came from retail, and we had a phrase, the who said of the greatest magnitude. We give all the power over to the who says of the greatest magnitude. And the doctor's not going to care about you the way you're going to care about you. And he doesn't know your body or feel what you feel. So you need to do your own research, and then you need to go back and do what I call a robust conversation. You need to not just accept that there's all kinds of nasty things that are going to happen to you when you take that pharmaceutical. What other alternatives are there? Or could you go on it for a short period of time and then get back off? What do you need to do that? One of the things I discovered is that conventional doctors didn't get anything on nutrition in medical school, or at best they got half a day. So if you know how they say to you, you need to lose weight. Well, guess what? You'll say to him, how do I do that? And they go, I don't know, because they didn't learn that.
Yep. Okay.
And so you have to be the person who's responsible for you. And
your loved ones.
And your loved ones. And your children.
And your pets.
And your pets.
Okay.
So my books cover all of that now because I want everybody to learn what I have discovered.
And that's just your generous gift to the world.
It's my mission. It is now.
So it's a new year, right? And so people have usually new, people want to be healthy. You just don't know how. So let's do it. First nugget, if someone's saying, I know maybe there's a way to eat healthy and I don't always have time and money. So where does a person begin?
Now, the way I'm going to explain it is for somebody who lives in LA, but then I'll tell you how to do it when you're in other areas of the country. You need to buy from a farm as close to you as possible.
Okay.
You need to know your farmer and buy organic. It's because you want that vegetable to get from picked to your plate in the fastest possible time. You need to cook, because by cooking it, you're responsible for what's going into your body. And you need to eat all the colors of the rainbow because, believe it or not, each color has a different gift. But when they get together, they party because all those phytonutrients like each other and create health. So if you start there, now, a lot of people don't know how to cook.
They don't want to cook. They don't want to cook. And that's okay. So then,
there's now food services that will bring you all the fresh organic food chopped up and ready to go.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't, it's a rhythm. If you start to cook and you get used to cooking, it doesn't take very long before I can cook a meal faster than I could get in the car and go pick up some lousy fake food at a fast food place. I can cook faster, only I'm eating something way more yummy that makes my body happy that I'm putting it in it. So it's how important it is to you. I just read a quote from a liver doctor yesterday that he tells his patients they have a choice. They can pay attention to him and go all in and find the solution, or they can do it sort of halfway and they can find a stay of execution, or they can not do it at all and continue to feel as lousy as they are. And that's kind of the choice that you get to make. If you cook real food and you do eat all the colors, and I even have a chart where you can knock them off so that you know that you're getting them all, then you are doing what your body needs to be healthy, and you're going to stave off disease permanently. If you're only going to be half in, you're only going to do it halfway, and your body's not going to get as well.
All right. So again, I cook, but I do know the really successful people, they don't like to cook and don't want to cook. And that's okay. So then when we're looking at this, right? So people want to feel good. So when they're looking at their body, whatever, even some of the signs that they may not attribute to being sick and still are
I have
a
blog actually on my website called 20 Hidden Signs You're Not as Healthy as You Think You are.
Okay, there we go.
From as simple as looking in the mirror in the morning and some days were good days and some days I was all puffy. Well, that all puffy is inflammation. So I used to joke that I had good, pretty days and unpretty days, because when I looked in the mirror, it was inflammation. I could feel it in my joints.
Okay.
I had brain fog when I got up in the morning. It would take me 1, 2, or 3 cups of coffee to get myself going. I wasn't sleeping well. You need to get a full 7 hours of continuous sleep, because otherwise that 7th hour is when the plaque gets swept out of your brain. So you need to give yourself that good sleep. And if you're not eating right, it's much harder to do it. And I don't know about you, but I want to keep my brain until I grow old.
Oh, well, what about people saying, well, it's just old age and this is just how it's supposed to be?
Yeah, well, people tell you they should be taking pills too because they're getting old. And guess what? That's not necessarily where we have to go.
Okay.
I felt generally lousy most of the time. I didn't have energy to do the things I wanted to do, but because I had my own business, I would push through it. I thought stress was actually good for me because I thought it was making me get more done. And I have discovered by doing little stress exercises through the day to let the top off of that, I am much more productive because I have brain clarity. I can feel the energy going up to my brain when I let the stress off. And everybody has stress, but it doesn't have to be chronic or toxic stress.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just, I used to have agita all the time where I had upset stomach. Well, now I'm eating alkaline because I'm eating fruits and vegetables. So I never have an upset stomach anymore. It's all fixable if you eat real food. And that's the key.
So now there's also a really generous chapter on your website that's part of the book. And it goes into saying that, well, people says, well, I just have an allergy. And then, well, there are children have ADHD, there are the autism, they're having all kinds of depression. And so let's go into that a little bit, because people sometimes will take care of their kids before them, right?
Yeah, but they're even feeding the kids.
Yep.
If you're feeding your children processed food, and if it has more than 5 items on the label, and if you don't know what any of those items are, or you can't pronounce them, you're feeding your child synthetic chemicals that are hard on their body, that are poisoning them, and they're not getting the nutrition that they need. And one of the ingredients, as I mentioned to you before we started, that I was appalled, MSG is under 39 different names on labels. Food companies know that we know MSG isn't good for us, so we're going to hide it. We don't want you to know that's what you're getting in that box. So if it says something like natural flavoring, that's probably MSG. You put it back on the shelf. You don't want that in your body. Okay. So the only processed food I buy are things that have real food in them. You don't want the things that have the chemicals in them, because those chemicals are what's creating all the ill health in your body.
Okay, so you get into the difference between food sensitivity and allergies.
Right, that was a surprise to me.
Okay.
And a lot of mine ended up being food sensitivities and not allergies. My joke with my doctor when I first met my functional doctor was I popped out allergic to Pittsburgh. And she looked at me and said, you might have, because I had allergies from the very beginning. And it ended up that 18 of them were food sensitivities. And some of them, since I don't eat them now, have already started to go away. A food sensitivity is not necessarily forever, whereas an allergy is something like peanuts. You eat it, you react immediately, and you could actually die from it.
Okay, or like penicillin, something like
penicillin, which is an allergy of mine. Okay. Yeah, so they're different, and your body reacts differently, but most conventional doctors don't believe that sensitivities exist. So if you're having problems with your health and you don't know why you feel so lousy, first ask your doctor if they would allow you to have a sensitivity test. They can order it whether they are a functional doctor or not. And the lab you order it from is Genova. And it gives you a detail on even how sensitive you are to it. And if you eat something a lot, then you build up an intolerance to it, because that's what's leaking through your gut that's causing you trouble. So one of my sensitivities is chicken. I used to eat so much chicken, I thought I was going to cluck. Well, I can't have it anymore because it became a sensitivity. I ate it too often, and I was already dealing with leaky gut without knowing I was dealing with leaky gut. So leaky gut is where your food doesn't break down properly, and your gut lining is only as thin as tissue paper and 1 cell thick. So if you're not breaking your food down properly, it starts punching up against your gut wall. Okay. And eventually your gut replaces itself every 6 days, but eventually it can't keep up and the food goes through. And then your body does exactly what it's supposed to do. It screams foreigner and it
attacks it. Okay.
So, and then if I was young, I'd become a biochemist. Your body mimics, that food particle mimics some area in your body that's not strong. For me, it was my joints and my muscles. For someone else, it might be their thyroid and become Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. For someone else, it could cause Parkinson's or dementia. We each have an area where we're weak in our body, and it mimics that. And then the body not only attacks that food particle, but attacks that part of your body.
Okay, hold on a second. This is big because I mean we're all hearing about leaky gut, right? I mean that's
Right.
the big buzzword now. Probiotics, prebiotics, leaky gut. But I actually didn't really. So it's food that you're not able to break down. So then,
Right.
first of all, let's go back up. Why wouldn't the body be able to break it down?
A whole bunch of things. Toxins interrupt you from being able to break it down.
Because it's
Sugar.
foreign. You shouldn't be in there.
Right.
Okay.
Sugar interrupts your food from digesting properly. Remember I said I had agita all the time? Yeah, that's because sugar interrupts your body from breaking your food down.
Okay.
Stress interrupts your body from breaking food down. But it could also be something like parasites. So you need to have a doctor who's willing to test for some of the reasons that your food doesn't break down. Toxins, I think, are the biggie that you can immediately control, and sugar. Sugar interrupts every single body system that you have. And this part, for somebody who always had a weight issue and had a doctor who told me I had no willpower, guess what? Sugar turns off your hormone that regulates your appetite. So I would eat this.
You're always hungry.
I would eat a huge Thanksgiving dinner and I'd be in the kitchen 15 minutes later looking around. What else could I pop into my mouth? Because my body didn't register that I was full.
Right.
Because my hormone wasn't working that would tell me my appestat was broken.
Okay.
And MSG and synthetic chemicals in processed and fast food do the same thing on purpose. They add them so that you're always hungry for their food so that you keep buying it and shoving it in.
Okay, hold on. So what's really fascinating is that this connection of the leaky gut, meaning food that your body won't digest because it's foreign, it's not supposed to be there. And eventually then the wall is very thin and then it leaks. And then what leaks means that simply that it's not this big erosion over time. And then your body attacks, but where it attacks, then it's not these sources.
It is attacking the food, but it's also attacking something else in your body.
Your weakest, whatever that is for every person. That I did not know. So it looks different for every person.
That's why it might be cancer for you. It might be heart disease for you. It might be any one of the 140 autoimmune diseases. And what did I get? I got undefined because I'm a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, and a little bit from column C, but I have all the markers for autoimmune disease. They just haven't named it yet.
Okay, and let me ask you this thing, because I think I know the answer to this. So then unaddressed, is it continually deteriorating more and more?
Not only does it continue to deteriorate, but when you have one, it is not unlikely that you will get multiple autoimmune diseases. It is not unlikely that if you get fibromyalgia, that you're also going to get Hashimoto's.
Because
your body keeps breaking down, right?
Okay.
Or I just interviewed a woman who had multiple autoimmune diseases and got cancer on top of it because the inflammation, it works that leaky gut then becomes inflammation, which then becomes chronic illness. And it's the same inflammation that's causing the cancer, that's causing the autoimmune disease. It's just how it's showing up in your body.
Okay, now let's go into this a little bit more about cancer and about even COVID. So there's been now that you can actually, the atmosphere that houses for cancer, you can actually make your body not habitable for cancer.
Yes and no. Certainly sugar feeds cancer. I thought that was fascinating. So if you're still eating sugar and you have cancer, cancer is gobbling it up. And that's why it's replicating in your body. So a healthy diet can give a stay of execution on your body and help you start to heal. So it's an important component. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try. There's actually a marvelous symposium called The Truth About Cancer that anybody with cancer should look up and watch. And there's also a Truth About Pet Cancer, by the way. The same group went and wanted to stop because pet cancer is wildly going through our pet population for the same reasons. They also have leaky gut. They also have the same issues.
Be eating.
Right. They're eating stuff that's beyond, they're eating dead, diseased animals that have been put into a pot and then made into goo.
Yeah.
What goes into pet food is really, we have to do better.
Right.
And so they get the same diseases that we do, but there's a whole thing. There are lots of different ways to approach cancer that isn't necessarily chemotherapy. And if you are, you have cancer, educate yourself and discover what all the different possibilities are, because there's many roads back to health and all of them are not chemotherapy.
But there's prevention too, though.
Right.
And you can do that through your food.
If you are eating organic, low toxin food and you start to eliminate all these toxins that are eroding your body and eroding your digestion, then your body has a much better chance to not be starting little cancer cells somewhere in your body where you're weak.
And what about the alkaline, non-alkaline, and that it's not?
Yeah, it's really important that you eat alkaline. And how do you eat alkaline? You eat all the fruits and vegetables of all the different colors. And that's even critical for your liver. Your liver actually functions much better when you have been eating an alkaline diet.
Okay.
Your whole body functions better. That doesn't mean you're not going to eat anything that's acid, and conventional meat is very acid, but pastured meat is less acid. We all need some kind of a quality protein source, but you don't need it from GMO soy.
Yeah.
If you're going to eat soy and you want to be vegan, then you need to be making sure that it is organic soy, because otherwise you're getting huge amounts of Bt toxin.
Okay. There was a study done with COVID, and now we're seeing why that makes sense, and leaky gut.
Right.
And that those that were more susceptible to actually getting sick, well, there's other people that don't get sick.
One of the reasons the United States has been hit so hard is not only that we're not paying attention to science, but it's also because of how we eat.
Yeah.
The American standard diet doesn't give our body anything to keep us healthy with. So if you want to be healthy and you want your family to be healthy, then start to eat organic food and eat the colors, because that will boost your immune system so that when the virus comes calling, your body can actually fend it off. And we are not prepared. Yeah. Now, I'm being very careful because I am immune compromised, even though I'm healthy. But I would bet that if I was in this vicinity of the virus 10 years ago, I absolutely would have gotten it.
Interesting.
You would have sneezed once around me and I would have gotten it. So I now have an immune system that has built up to protect me, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be super careful, because okay. I have. Once having autoimmune disease, I will always have autoimmune disease. What I want to get people to do is change before they cross over into chronic illness.
Okay. Now, so some people say, wow, this is so much, and there is so much, but again, the reward, and I'm going to do some of the links that you went through, but it's simply you eat things, the less touched, right? The closer it comes from the earth.
Less processed, the more you're getting all the nutrition from the thing.
Now, why organic? Besides the chemicals, what else? What is different?
Actually, when I first started researching was 10 years ago, and there were all kinds of reports that organic wasn't better than conventional. Mm-hmm. There now have been a series of studies that show there's a huge difference. Factory farming is no longer rotating our crops. So we're not getting the minerals that we need from our crops in the first place. Whereas organic pretty much is the old methods of rotating and making sure that we're getting maximum nutrition up in that plant. Bt toxin and glyphosate actually stop the plant from getting the minerals. So you're probably deficient in magnesium, for one, which is responsible for 325 different enzyme reactions in your body. And that's because you're not getting any magnesium out of your conventionally grown crops, and you're getting toxins with them. So it's really worth it. And now they have discovered it's cheaper to grow organic. They have better crop size. we've gone away from it, but the people who are still doing the old-fashioned organic farming are having all the success that they need to have, but we haven't. There's so much money in conventional farming. I don't know that we're ever going to go back unless you join me and become an army of one and start eating organic, because the more of us that do, the more organic farmers will be out there.
Well, and then if we're also talking about the environmental factors of stripping
Which is
the earth,
huge.
yes, and that there's just being barren places on the planet that no longer can sustain life because they stripped it bare, as
Right.
opposed to giving back like vermiposting or composting and bringing
Which all
back those
puts all
methods.
those beautiful minerals of nutrients back into the earth.
And that's just so visual and so makes sense that if you have all of these vegetables that you broke down and you put them back in your soil, that's all the things that's going back in your food.
And it's all the stuff that's coming back into your body.
Yep. Yep. And then it's also something that's the environmental. But again, big ag is big lobbies, big money.
And all of our politicians support them. They give big ag money, but the poor organic farmer has to jump through all kinds of expensive hoops to prove that he's organic. They don't care that the big ag crops are lousy for us. There are no studies on that, and there's no hoops to jump through. But the organic farmer, and you know, thank God, because if I'm buying organic, I want to know what I'm getting. But I feel sorry for them that they get absolutely no money from the government to support them in our health. And really, I've come to the conclusion what's wrong with our healthcare system, other than the fact that we have no healthcare, is that we're eating wrong. We're eating all these toxins, so we're getting sick. So it's impossible for insurance companies and for our health to keep up with us because we're putting all the wrong stuff in and we're all sick all the time. And we are 37th in the world in health, and something like 60% of us have some kind of a chronic ailment. 53% of our children do.
I want to get into that. You had said, and this was really disturbing, was that you're actually seeing that there's now a time where our children may not live as long as us. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, for a long time, each generation lived longer than their parents did. And now, because of how we're eating, our children don't stand a chance. In my second book, I have a whole section on children, and it actually starts before conception. And it starts with the man and with the woman. Our children are being born with a toxic load of up to 300 chemicals that they're getting right from the umbilical cord of their mother. So have you noticed how so many kids have horrible allergies and sensitivities now? It's because they're getting their mother and their father's toxic load right at the point of birth.
Okay.
And so right there, they're not as healthy and they're having a problem. And so then when they start hitting the child with more and more toxins, their body can't keep up and it reacts to them more and more. I just dropped a podcast yesterday with a mom who had 5 children. Her 3-year-old was deadly sick. She went to every single doctor and medical center in Texas that would do anything, and they couldn't figure out for the life of them what it was. Well, she by happenstance met a woman who sells a cleaner that I love. It's called Branch Basics. It's a 1. They're on the EWG scale. They're plant enzymes. And Marilee pulled her aside, sat her down, explained how environmental toxins could well be the reason that her child was ill, and then sent her Branch Basics to get her started. Okay. Their whole family is super healthy now. And the child that was everything was hanging on her. They couldn't get it, her skin was blue. She was not going to make it through the end of the year. Wow. And now their whole family, and she didn't even tell the whole family what she was doing in the beginning. She just started cleaning up everything.
One thing.
She started with the cleaning.
Okay.
And Marilee taught her, take everything that's cleaning in your house and put it in a bin and put it out in your garage. And when you want to use it, then you bring it in and you start with the first ingredient on the bottom. Okay. And if that's toxic, you throw it away and you find another solution.
Okay.
And you do that until you change out everything. And in the meantime, she had the branch basics to use.
Okay. So people are saying, well, how can I afford this? But in the actuality, you wind up having less and less products, which is
Right.
another reason why. So you have your
Right.
white vinegar, you have your baking soda, you have a little bit of bleach. And
I use hydrogen peroxide.
yes.
I had read very early on if I cleaned my wooden cutting boards, first with hydrogen peroxide, let it sit, then wiped it off, then with white vinegar,
I do white
let
vinegar.
it sit, wiped it off,
Okay.
that it would kill everything.
Okay.
It would kill E. coli, it would kill anything that wanted to get me.
Really?
So that's another inexpensive.
Yeah.
And the things that are being recommended to be used in schools around your children to kill COVID, oh my God, you don't want your child around those chemicals.
Yeah.
Hot soap and water will break down the COVID virus membrane.
Yeah.
Branch Basics will break down, and it comes in a little spray bottle that the child can take to clean her desk if the school will allow it. And it's about toxic load. So you're not going to be able to do it all. You want to get rid of as many toxins as you can. And each thing that you eliminate is one step closer to health.
Okay. So that's a better approach than start with one thing.
Right.
Start with the chemicals under your and slowly start to replace them one by one or reintroduce them one by one.
Right. Or at least start looking them up.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are two apps on your phone. One is Think Dirty and the other is AG's Skin Deep that will tell you at least what your cosmetics have in them, and Think Dirty will tell you what's in your cleaning supplies. And all you have to do is, that little square thing, I don't know what you call it. You hit that with your telephone and it'll give you a full toxicity report.
I was going to do an unboxing. And so I started to do a little bit more of my oils because it actually was saving money too. I do love Costco. But this is from Aromatics and it has 6 oils. They're all natural. One is neruli, one is tea tree, one is thing. And
my first question is, are they real? Or are they?
So they're out of Korea, and they very much are all about being so.
Okay.
And
I
so,
use essential. Anything that has a fragrance, if it's not a real essential oil, you need to ditch it. It's poisoning you. It's poisoning your lungs. It's poisoning you, and it's also the one that takes all the fragrance out of the air. It's poisoning you too.
If you're putting something usually in your body, i.e. like the fruits and vegetables and things like that, those important ingredients, you can also usually put them topically for benefits.
So real essential oils are good for your lungs. For COVID, you want to be very careful with your lungs. You want to treat it with lots of love. And so essential oils, get a diffuser. That'll make your house smell fabulous. I put lavender oil in my laundry and I use wool balls now. No more sheets because they're one of the most poisonous things in your house, your dryer sheets.
And it's so funny is that the rest of the world does not do so much of the mass products and the chemicals that we have. I had these like pellets that I put in a little egg, and that's all I use for my laundry detergent. And then I use my essential oils to have and it'll last for like 6 months. And yet it's not these big. So again, it's better for the environment too, less of a footprint. And yes. Okay. We're going to have all of these links down there because if we were to start first, so where to look.
Start with food. And the second thing you should do once you start doing food is water. You should get a water report from your water company because you won't believe what's in your water.
Yeah.
Flint, Michigan is not an unusual situation. It was an extreme, but I have really good water where I live in LA because the water comes down from the mountains and goes into artesian wells. And even people put pharmaceuticals down there.
A lot of pharmaceuticals.
The groundwater from this conventional farming gets into your water that comes out of your tap. So the first thing we did was we put a filter just on the kitchen sink.
Okay.
It's not terribly expensive. And then I will never drink out of plastic again. I buy stainless or glass. I'm clumsy, so I'm afraid of glass for my water, but I carry great big jugs in the car so I can fill my bottles myself.
Okay.
So that's what I was drinking. That's what I was cooking. But we eventually put a full filter system on that house and also on our house here in Sedona, because here we have the added benefit of arsenic in our water.
Okay.
It's just naturally in the ground.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And your skin is your largest organ. So if you're showering, all these chemicals are going into your body through your skin.
Okay.
So water is the second place to start.
Okay.
And then you just go product by product.
We're going to list a few places that you can go and really look and say, well, what is in this? What really is dirty?
One of the beauties of my book, which is why it's my gift of love, I tell you how I researched, what I found, what I replaced it with, because I want to give everybody a running start.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can say it and then not have a replacement. Well, where are you going with that?
And I learned with my very first beta reader that people were going to think they had to do it all at once, and you can't. It took me 5 years to eliminate all these toxins. Okay. So if you buy my book, you write to me and I'll send you a workbook. Okay. And you put the workbook, you print it off as you're reading the chapter, because it's a long workbook and you don't want to print it all at once. And then you make notes of what you find in your life that's toxic and what you want to replace it with when you run out of it. And you put it in a binder. So if you're using I probably shouldn't use a brand, but if you're using a cleaner, let's say the laundry detergent that she's smelling on the ad that makes me absolutely crazy because she's poisoning herself every time she does that. When you run out of that, then you go to your pages and you look up what you want to replace it with that you already know is much lower top. One thing at a time. Okay. And you don't beat yourself up. You do the best that you can. And over 5 years, it was all gone and all my pain was gone with it.
Let me ask you this now. Reducing and getting rid of sugar. Again, it's being attributed to as addictive as cocaine. And that wouldn't
it lights up your brain like a ping ball machine.
And also the withdrawals could be severe. So how do you even particularly with children that may be picky eaters, and how do you begin to do that without completely throwing them off?
I have a thing with children.
And,
Right. With sugar, it's a detox. And I will tell you, I got as sick as if I had a really bad flu. In February, I'm going to do a sugar detox, and it's a 3-week event, probably 4 weeks, because you need support to get through it, but you eliminate it all. And the joy of coming out the other end is you have food freedom. You no longer want to eat all that crap.
There's no other way of doing it.
There's no other way of doing it. You got to go through it. And literally, I was in bed for 3 days and everything hurt. I went through drug withdrawal. I would have told you I wasn't on drugs. Well, I was on sugar, and it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And I do a whole thing in my sugar detox about how to survive the cravings, what to replace them with, because that's the kind of support you need so that you come out the other side. I'm to the point now that if I go into a grocery store and I go down one of those center aisles that is loaded with sugar or processed food, I can't stand the smell. It's overwhelming to me because that sugar is in the air and I don't want it anymore. But when you cannot, now, does this mean I don't eat any treats at all? No, I'm not deprived. John and I are foodies, but my treats are different. I now cook with coconut sugar, which is a very low glycemic sugar, and they're not everyday treats. So maybe I'll make brownies and we'll enjoy them, and then I won't make them again for another month. But we still get the joy, and I don't use white flour. White turns to sugar, so I use almond flour and a little bit of coconut flour when I cook. There's ways that you can still satisfy all your desires for good tasting food without all of the ill effects from the way you're getting it currently.
Okay. All right. We're going to tune in for the sugar detox piece. I'd like to check back in.
Okay. I'd love to have you do that.
Okay, good. I'm naturally, as we discussed, I'm intolerant of sugar. I was somehow blessed with this my entire life. And yet I see my children eating it, and there's just so
Probably.
much to that.
Right. And fake sugars, the blue, the pink, and the yellow packet, they're horrible for your body. And they will not help you lose weight. They'll help you gain weight. The blue packet and the pink packet are neurotoxins. So if you want to keep your brain, you don't want to be going there. The yellow packet destroys all your good gut bacteria. And does a real number on, and agave and the yellow packet do a real number on your liver. In fact, the neurotoxins do too.
And monk fruit mix.
I use stevia. I try to use the raw stevia that doesn't even have the alcohol. It's green. I buy it from Amazon. I do use a little bit of the alcohol one, but apparently the way they get the stevia out of the leaf is not such a healthy process. But sometimes I just want a drop in my tea. And so it's better for you. But monk fruit, you have to be careful because most monk fruit has dextrose in it. So if it's pure monk fruit, it's great for you. But if it has dextrose in it, that's sugar.
So now we have a new component to the 2021. It's the authors and their pets. So tell us a little bit about the pumpkin that was saying hello before.
Yeah, he has moved somewhere else now.
Of course now, right? Cats.
While I was researching for my own health, I lost all 3 of my beloved cats. One died at 12, one died at 14, one died at 16. My cats had always made it to their 20s, so I was horrified. So when I finished writing my first book, I started researching pets. And in the meantime, I got married. I met a wonderful man that wanted to go on a get well journey with me. And so when the last cat died, I was already married to John, and he had not told me that he was deadly allergic to cats. And when I said, why not? He said, because I wanted you, and you came with cats.
Oh.
So I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to have another animal. I've had pets my entire life. Well, he started researching, and he discovered that Oriental short hairs were not as allergic. And then he got into Pet Finder, and he found 2 little kittens that were orange. My beeper, who had passed away, was my favorite. He was orange. And so he surprised me, and we went to go pick them up. So I have 2 twins. Their names, we call them the Rice Krispie twins. One is Crackle, the other is Snap, and John calls himself Pop. And he has no problem with allergies around them. And the minute we got them, we started taking them on Sunday drives because we go back and forth from LA to Sedona, and we wanted to take them with us. So the first time we came to Sedona, they're in a big circular tube in the back seat. They didn't say boo. They just got in there. They have their food, their litter, everything in there. And they traveled 7 hours to Sedona without a peep. So they love it here. And they bring tremendous joy to our lives, and we're so happy to have them here.
Well, this is the pet component. Was that with COVID, the things that make you happy and the little things in life are just come to the forefront, which is really one of the great things about COVID. And with my pumpkins, I have my Italian greyhounds. I have 4 babies and love my babies. And part of the day will always be stopping to snuggle. I don't know how many times a day, quite a few probably, but it's just those blessings, stress release, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully between our children and our pet children get to be part of our lives because they are such a great part of our lives.
They are. I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have my pets. So I'm very grateful that John wanted to figure out how to make me happy. But the great thing about my marriage to him, I was with someone when I got sick. We'd been together 10 years. And I woke up one morning and he looked at me and said, I don't like it that you're sick. I said, okay, what would you like me to do about that? So obviously we broke up, and I took a class.
Better the next day, right?
No, I was heartbroken, but I took a class from a woman named Allison Armstrong. It was an angel's hand on my back. I just didn't recognize it at the time because I decided at 63, I was lousy at this relationship stuff. And I took a class from a woman who believes in teaching how to celebrate men who celebrate women.
Oh,
that was what the class was.
Okay.
And at the end of the weekend seminar, she looked at me and said, Cheryl, your problem is you're trying to fit into their life. You need a non-negotiable list. And that's what you don't deviate from. You put that out on one of the dating sites, and when people answer, if they don't meet your standards, you don't have anything to do with them, because your list is what's important. So I put it out. John answered me within 3 days and lived 10 minutes away from me, and had just lost his wife of 43 years to cancer. So
Wow.
we were both walking wounded.
Yeah.
But the thing that got me is he said, if you give me, and he said, I want to go on a get well journey. He said, I've gained a tremendous amount of weight while I've been the caretaker for my wife.
Right.
But if you give me a chance, I'm probably the nicest man you ever met. And you want to know
Well, he
something?
had his list too, though.
He had
Just
his
so you know.
list too. He is.
Okay.
And he had to be smart enough to keep me on my feet. He's a statistician. So he helps me edit my books. He produces my podcasts. He has just started writing his own book, which is going to be on Don't Be Afraid of Death, because so many of Margie's friends didn't want to come visit her because they were, what were they going to say to her? They were afraid to come. And he wants to tell people it was a great joy for her, even if she couldn't talk, just for them to be near her. So he wants to write his book on that. So we sold his house in Los Angeles, and that's where we got the money to buy the house here in Sedona. So we go back and forth between the two houses, and I love them both. One is where I'm grounded because it's my childhood home. And then this, I look out at the red rocks right out my office window. It's spectacular here.
Okay.
And nature is a huge part of health and a huge part of lifting depression. Because if you're having a problem with your mood, it's almost impossible to stay down if you get out into nature. And not everybody has the Red Rocks of Sedona. It could be your local park. It could be walking around your block and doing it with all your senses.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people to, when they go out, just don't walk for exercise. For part of it, walk with your senses. Notice if the sky is blue. Take a look and see if you hear the birds. Notice all the plants that are new since you did the walk last. Feel the texture of the bark on a tree. Do it with your entire sensibility, because you can't be depressed when you're out in nature. There's too many wonderful things that are marvelous about nature.
And that's the whole approach to food then too. It's all
Right.
marvelous when it comes from nature.
And serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone,
Mhm.
is made in the gut. They used to think it was totally made in the brain. There is a nerve that goes from the gut to the brain. And so part of it is up there, but the majority of it is actually made in your gut. So if I get up and I'm a little down in the morning, I know I've got to go eat more colors,
So,
because that will raise my mood almost immediately.
so that's where they had that, not the analogy, but it was the comparison that your gut is your second brain.
Yep, it is. And gut feeling. Actually, you have 3 brains. I found this sense. Your gut feeling comes from your gut, and that's also where your good mood stuff comes from.
Okay.
Your heart is another brain. It's actually as smart as your brain. It's what you use when you walk into a room and you can feel negative or positive energy.
Mhm.
I'm more empathetic than I realized. I can walk into a room and know what's going on in everybody's life in that room. That's my heart brain. And there's a whole new science called heart math, which is doing scientific research on how smart the heart is. And then your third brain is your brain. But they're all important, and they're all in coordination with each other.
They're all chemicals and electricity and energy. It's all connected.
Right,
We're all
right.
connected.
We are. And that's how we connect with each other. It's through those energies.
So what's coming up next, I wanted to talk about this survey and where you're going with that. And then I want to link that. So tell us what you're working on, what's going on for 2021.
I figured out that when I speak, one of the things people ask me is, how do I know if I have this? Because it can take 20 years to build up toxic load. And I missed all the signs. And I talk about that when I'm speaking to large groups of people, because I don't want other people to miss them. And so I decided I was going to do a survey where you answer questions, and it will lead you to where your toxic load is building in your body. Things like, when you lay on your side and you're sleeping, do you get a pain? Because if you do, That's one of the early signs of fatty liver.
Ooh.
You may not even know that you have fatty liver. It's not easy to detect. You have to go get a CAT scan, and then they can see it, but your doctor's probably not going to pick it up. But if you might be able to pick it up. I had mono really badly in my 20s, so my liver function has always been slightly off. And I was allergic to aspirin, so the only over-the-counter medicine I took was Tylenol. Far harder on my liver than I ever realized. I don't take any over-the-counter anything anymore. There are natural supplements that you can take that do the same thing, only they have benefits instead of downsides.
Yeah.
So, but getting my liver healthy has been part of my process and part of me coming back to health. But there are all kinds of signs, random rashes. I'm trying to think of what they all are, but there's a bunch of them that people just don't recognize. My mascara started bothering me. It either made my eyes water or it made my eyes itchy. My underarm deodorant was bothering me. It either gave me blisters or it gave me a rash. And one of the big ones is, and I only recently connected the dots for this, if you don't have inflammation, you don't have body odor.
Really?
All my body odor is gone. I don't use any underarm deodorant anymore. And I used to be using the heaviest possible one that I could do, and then my body would get used to it and I'd have to find another one.
Because your body's toxic.
But because your body's toxic, so it's coming out of your body and it stinks, including your breath.
That's your way your body's trying to tell you.
Right.
Okay. So basically, this survey will point you wherever.
Then it's it'll send you a conclusion, depending upon how you answered the things. And then after that, I'm going to start doing what I'm going to call tiny courses. I'm going to start doing courses on all the stuff I've talked to you about, but I don't want them to be longer than 15 minutes. And you'll go in and you'll buy a package. You can listen to 20 of my tiny courses on things that are directly related to where your toxic load is.
Bite sizes, so people can move forward. I love that. All right, so that's what we're going to list here. Besides these other few references, where can they go to get that?
When it's ready, and it's getting closer, I'm hoping within the next month that I will have the questionnaire ready to publish. And it's going to actually go right on the back of my WordPress website. Then you'll be able to find it on my website, and I will be advertising it everywhere. I'll be advertising it on Facebook and on Instagram and in my private group, which I invite everyone to come join. It's called Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin. And health isn't just food or toxins. Health is laughter. Health is joy. Health is getting out into nature and sharing it. Health is all of the good things of life. And it's gratitude and it's stress control. So we do all of that every day in my group. I do something on gratitude. I do something on stress release. I do something on health, because I want to remind everybody. And I do something on have you eaten the rainbow today? Yeah. I want people to buy their vegetables, clean them, put them all at eye level in their refrigerator. So when they open up the door, bang, that's what they're going to grab.
So what's the website, Cheryl?
The website is Cheryl with a C, mhealthmuse.com. That's also my main Facebook page. It's also who I am on Instagram, and it's who I am on Pinterest. So Cheryl M. Health Muse. It's also who I am on LinkedIn. So if you get that down, then you find me.
We'll list that.
Right.
And there's something that's coming up that I'm going to talk to you about, and hopefully we'll get you part of, because it'll coincide for when your survey's coming out. So
and it'll be right on the front page of my website when it's ready.
Okay, and isn't also a chapter there that they can download from the book?
Well, the whole book is kind of about toxic load.
But I'm saying, is there a free chapter on your website?
Well, I have several free chapters. So yeah, probably talks about it. There's a free handout of the 20 hidden signs that you're not as healthy as you think you are. And I recommend everybody pulls that up and reads it, because it will surprise you. You don't realize that those are signs of toxic load.
So we're going to get healthy for 2021. We're going to keep up our immunity, and eventually we'll be able to get back together.
COVID is already starting to change.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the last of the super viruses. So my wish for you all listening out there is that you start to pay attention to the things I just talked about, because the next time you don't want to be the one that gets it. It's not pretty. And so start to build your immune system now. Start to build the immune system of your children. And I trademarked a name. I want to do a children's book at some point that I want you to make your kids into little veggie junior rangers so that they have their superpower, that no matter how their friends are eating, they know how they're supposed to eat. They know how to read labels, and they become the leaders, not the followers with food. And it's doable. I have met several mothers who have done it. And my latest podcast is with a mother who has done it. She doesn't get twisty if her kids eat something they're not supposed to eat, but they eat so clean for the majority of the time. And they know when they've eaten something they're not
I don't
supposed
feel
to.
good.
Right.
And that's what happens. All right, Cheryl, it's been always an absolute pleasure.
Thank
And
you.
I will see you soon. Happy New Year. Happy birthday. And
Thank
we're
you.
going to have a list to all of the website and all of those different extra
Yeah,
places.
I'll send you an email with all the links.
All right, good. Again, my friend, always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you.